This is the only level in Mugshot's world that actually is a casino. And originally, when we had set off to make Mugshot's world, it was all going to be casino. We just sort of weren't that interested in doing a whole casino world after doing one.
So we had to find lots of stuff around it. That's why we have buildings outside of it and the rooftop on top of it.
Well, it's just more interesting going through the urban environment than it was kind of making your way through these slot machines and dodging the gangster dogs.
Kind of like real Vegas, where it's interesting for the first time you see it and for a little while, and then after a while you kind of get numbed.
But it's based on real casinos that have a lot of water and swinging, sparking cables.
Yeah.
You've seen real casinos you've been to. Over in Tulalip.
No.
Oh.
In fact, it's not. It's not. This level features a couple game mechanics that we use all over the place, but in here it's pretty pronounced, and that's when you get up on top of chandeliers and you're looking down on a guard, where the whole point is to get the drop on your opponent, jump down and smack them in the head with your cane. I think this was the first place we did it, and we use it all over the game, but there's some pretty clear examples in here. And oddly enough, even though you're many, many feet away from your opponent and you can go anywhere, whenever we see people playing, they instinctually bash people in the backs of their heads from above, so it seems to be pretty core to human behavior. Another very core Sly Cooper kind of gameplay concept is what we call M+1, an M standing for mechanic. So when you're playing the second half of this level and you're jumping on those spinning roulette wheels, you'll notice that the first set you're on, they're not dangerous at all. And that's just to teach you sort of what it's like to be on these wheels that have little partitions and they're moving. And then the second one you get to has dangerous tabs in them. So you have to kind of watch out where you're jumping. That's M+1. The +1 is the dangerous tabs. Then you get to the third set of wheels and you're at M+1+2. And the 2 is the laser beams, which you can't cross. So you need to get between the wheels fast. And then you get to the fourth set of wheels, and the wheels are going in the opposite direction. If you sit and you play this game, or the second half, and you really look at how the difficulty is ratcheted up one wheel at a time, it's crazy clear that that's how we try and increase the tension in the gameplay, but not overwhelming the player off the bat with complexity, because you're taught each little mechanic along the way.
This level started with just experimenting with the field of view of the camera. This kind of, it's a lot more extreme and more kind of fish-eyed lens than any other level in the game. And once that was in, it was like, well, this is very much like Vertigo, you know, you get this feeling of vertigo from being high and seeing the ground below you. So that's why I tried to make the design be like this, you know, the sides of the building or a skyscraper as they're going up. So
yeah, and we ended up
motivate them.
Yeah, we ended up doing it on the inside, kind of the hotel, sort of in a kind of an atrium or a courtyard. In theory, we invented these bouncers. This was actually the first place in the game that we had used, in this case, an awning, but anything that would bounce Sly upwards, and really started to tune and play with that gameplay about, you know, how high should they each bounce and what's the right amount to give the player control while he's in the air. And really the combination, I think, of the unique camera angles and a huge amount of bouncing on things and jumping up and down on things really kind of defines the concept for this level. It presents some good challenges. Once it sort of took on this retro feel, kind of playing like a 2D side-scroller. Our producers at Sony even, you know, kind of took us to task once or twice about how retro that felt. But the retro feel also had a big impact on the kinds of NPCs we could use in this level.
Oh, definitely.
Because you needed an NPC that could work well in a really confined space. And in fact, the original design for the ball and chain NPC had him swinging the ball in the wrong hand for this level, and we had to change him so that he would be comfortable with his right side up against walls. From a secondary standpoint, I thought that the introduction of the air conditioners was a good idea because it was this sort of skill element that required you to pay attention. And
right. It was one of the few really leftover in terms of mechanics from some early designs for the game, where there are these things called break falls, where you would, it was like the air conditioners where each one you hit, it would fall away. So it was very much the environment's kind of getting destroyed and your choices are getting limited as you're going. So you have to do it, pretty much do it right the first time.
Yeah, the stealth sections, these were some of the earlier sections to use the duck and to use cameras fairly heavily. I thought pretty successfully in this case. You get some different looks that you see elsewhere in the game. And the last section in the bedrooms, sort of the bouncers go up through the ceilings, which was kind of a fun change. Gave us some real sense of three-dimensionality as you kind of pass through the floors. It was a fun change. And then the big finish, the precarious big finish, where you have to sneak out onto the sign. I don't know, all in all, pretty successful level.
They should have definitely have kept all that breakable item stuff.
I did the kind of layout design for this world using Legos, and it actually turned out pretty close to what I did. I knew it was going to be a rooftop, so having being kind of constrained by the general blockiness of Legos seemed like it was fine, and it helped me get the elevations worked out, and I found it easier than doing it on paper because of all the it's going to be done in 3D anyway, so if you're throwing it together with Legos, you can get, kind of hold up to your face and look at it from all these different angles and try and imagine what shots you're going to have in it. So I think it was the only level I did with Legos, but I think it helped a lot.
Compositionally, the level was really fun to work on. It was, once he had the letters done and we knew the elevation, then I went in and even from the very first shot, you'll see that nothing overlaps each other. So the level doesn't feel extremely super full, but it doesn't feel like it's all a bunch of clutter. And dealing with the NPCs, they were really fun. We had a lot of designs and thought about different ideas that would really relate to the idea of dogs playing poker. That was the theme.
Yeah.
The main theme behind it. So you'll see like the dog throwing cards and having his idols being card tricks, and the slobbering dog, the junkyard dog, which started in a whole different design with the bobbing head. It ended up being one of our most complex characters with blend shapes and really great idol of like chomping on a bone. And then at the top, or actually the lower levels, you'll see we call it Dog with Stick, which is totally a play on beefy dog sneaking around and how the idea of this big, cumbersome guy being able to walk so agile with a big stick. And then also the final one, which is you see up in the top level, which is we call him Paulie Shackles. And that's a jailbird, and he originally was a woman with a purse, and we found it too offensive, so we had to redesign. We're like, what are we gonna do? We have to redesign with the same gameplay mechanics, and we came up with different ideas, like maybe be an Elvis impersonator with a microphone, but the whole idea of the thin string was too hard for a player to see, and the microphone really wasn't that big of an object. And then luckily Travis came up with the idea that it'd be great for it to be a jailbird, him throwing his ball and chain, and it ended up being a really strong element. It's with the big ball at the end and a thick chain, it's really fair for a player to jump it and also know when it's dangerous. So it ended up being a real win-win.
Well, a lot of the other game design stuff that's in this world besides the sign came out of brainstorming sessions with the people who were going to be people like Suzanne and Karen and Dev, who were going to be directly involved in how this level was going to get fleshed out. So the cars with the clues on them that drop away when you come off of them, I think that was Dev's idea, and having the sign, like the big bone that crashes through the wall and everything like that. So it was one of our better, very collaborative efforts.
Definitely.
That Lego thing is was really unique.